Silent Hill has never offered easy exits. From the moment Harry Mason's car careened off that fog-shrouded road in 1999, the series established a fundamental truth. How you navigate trauma, guilt, and moral complexity determines whether you find redemption or damnation. Other horror games might offer good endings and bad endings, simple binary choices wrapped in gameplay mechanics. Silent Hill asks something more difficult. It asks what kind of person you are when no one is watching. It tracks your actions in the shadows, how many times you checked on that photo, whether you healed your wounds or let them fester, if you showed mercy or gave in to violence. Then it holds up a mirror. The genius of Silent Hill's multiple endings lies not in their branching paths, but in their psychological precision. The series pioneered the concept that player behavior, not explicit dialogue choices, should determine narrative outcome. Years before games like The Walking Dead made binary moral choices obvious on screen, Silent Hill was quietly watching how you played. Did you fight every monster or run past them when possible? Did you examine items related to your lost loved one obsessively or avoid them? Did you keep your character healthy or let them bleed? These weren't presented as moral choices. They were organic behaviors emerging from how you approach survival horror. But the game was paying attention, building a profile of your psychological state, inferring what kind of ending you deserved based on how you acted when you thought no one was judging you. This created endings that felt earned rather than selected. You couldn't just pick the good ending from a menu. You had to be the kind of player, and by extension, the kind of person the character would be who deserved that ending. If you played recklessly, prioritizing violence, ignoring opportunities for healing and reflection, the game decided you were pursuing death, and it gave you an ending that reflected that death wish. If you played carefully, maintaining health, examining memories, making thoughtful progress, the game recognized someone trying to survive and move forward, and it offered conclusions that enabled survival and forward movement. The ending wasn't a reward separate from gameplay. It was gameplay's natural conclusion, the thematic summation of everything you'd done. This approach required tremendous faith in players. Most games tell you when important choices are happening. Dialogue trees are marked. Moral decisions are announced with music cues and dramatic presentation. You know when you're choosing your fate. Silent Hill trusted that players would find meaning in discovering their ending reflected their behavior, even if they didn't realize they were being tracked. That trust was occasionally betrayed. Some players felt manipulated when they learned their random ending was actually calculated from hundreds of small decisions they'd made unconsciously. But most players found it revelatory. Your Silent Hill 2 ending says as much about you as it does about James Sunderland. Your response to trauma, your approach to violence, your relationship with memory and health, all of it went into the system, and the ending you received was the system's judgment of who you'd been. Over more than 2 decades and across multiple installments, Silent Hill has presented dozens of endings. Some offer hope, suggesting that even people who've done terrible things can find paths forward if they demonstrate remorse, care, and willingness to change. Others deliver crushing despair, showing characters consumed by guilt, unable or unwilling to escape the prisons of their own making. A few break into absurdist comedy, acknowledging that sometimes the only response to cosmic horror is laughter at its expense. But whether serious or silly, each ending emerged from specific player choices, specific character actions, specific moral calculations made in the moment-to-moment terror of navigating the town's fog-shrouded streets and rust-drenched otherworlds. The series' relationship with endings evolved dramatically across its installments. Early games like Silent Hill 1 used relatively simple systems. Help this character or don't, save this person or don't, collect this item or don't. These were mechanical checks that translated into narrative variations. Silent Hill 2 revolutionized this approach by tracking player behavior holistically, creating a psychological profile rather than checking boxes. Later games experimented with different systems: Silent Hill 3's point accumulation, Silent Hill 4's dual variable matrix, Homecoming's explicit binary choices, Shattered Memories, personality profiling. Each approach reflected different philosophies about what endings should accomplish and how player agency should function. The UFO endings became a beloved tradition, appearing in most entries as a pressure release valve. After experiencing genuine psychological horror, after confronting difficult truths about guilt and trauma, after making hard choices with serious consequences, players needed permission to laugh. The UFO endings provided that permission explicitly. They said, yes, this was all very serious and disturbing, but it's also a video game about supernatural monsters in a foggy town, and we can acknowledge that absurdity. The genius was that the UFO endings didn't diminish the serious endings. If anything, they reinforced them by providing contrast. The joke endings worked because the serious endings had already done their emotional work. You could laugh at alien abduction precisely because you'd already experienced genuine horror and catharsis. This is the complete chronicle of every ending across every Silent Hill game. How to achieve them, what they mean, how they fit into the broader mythology, the canonical outcomes versus the alternate timelines, the psychological implications of each conclusion, the gameplay system that determined which ending you received, the thematic resonances between games, the evolution of the series' approach to player agency and narrative consequence. Understand now that spoilers follow for every game in the series. If you've somehow remained unspoiled for any of these titles, consider whether you want that mystery preserved. But if you're ready to examine every possible fate that awaits in Silent Hill, if you want to understand how player agency shapes narrative outcome across the entire franchise, settle in. The fog is thick tonight, and there are many paths through it. Silent Hill, where choices first mattered. The original Silent Hill, released in January 1999 for PlayStation, introduced the multiple ending system that would become the series' signature. Harry Mason's search for his daughter Cheryl offered 4 primary conclusions plus 1 hidden joke ending, determined by specific player actions during the campaign. Unlike games that announced moral choices with on-screen prompts, Silent Hill made decisions feel organic, woven into exploration and progression. The system tracked 2 key variables. First, whether Harry saved Dr. Michael Kaufman by helping him at Annie's bar and later rescuing him at the motel. This single character's survival fundamentally altered the finale. Second, whether Harry obtained the red liquid from inside the motorcycle gas tank at the resort area and later used it on Sybil when she appeared as a parasitic boss fight. These choices created a matrix of outcomes. Good ending. Harry enters nowhere, the final nightmare realm created by Dahlia Gillespie's ritual. He confronts the cult's twisted deity and defeats it with Kaufman's help. The doctor arrives, clutching what remains of the red liquid, and hurls it at the god fetus, weakening it enough for Harry to finish the fight. As the realm collapses, Alessa's spirit manifestation separates into light and dark halves. The light half, purified, creates a baby containing half of Alessa's soul. She hands the infant to Harry, a silent transfer of desperate hope. Harry escapes the disintegrating nightmare with the child as Sybil's voice crackles over a police radio, but Sybil herself doesn't appear. The implication is clear. She died earlier, either killed by Harry in her parasitic form or consumed by the town itself. Harry emerges alone except for the baby, who we know becomes Cheryl, later Heather, setting the stage for Silent Hill 3. This ending unlocked the chainsaw weapon for subsequent playthroughs. Good plus ending, identical to the good ending in every respect, except one crucial detail. By using the red liquid on Sybil earlier, Harry freed her from the parasite's control, sparing her life. In the final moments as Harry escapes with the baby, Sybil emerges from the collapsing nightmare as well, running beside him. They both make it out. The intro sequence of the game changes on subsequent playthroughs to show Sybil's presence, replacing Harry's deceased wife Jody in the passenger seat during the opening drive, a subtle acknowledgement of player achievement. Silent Hill 3 never confirms whether Sybil survived, leaving her fate deliberately ambiguous. Silent Hill Homecoming references a Brahms police officer who disappeared in Silent Hill with only her motorcycle found, suggesting she might not have made it. But the ending itself offers hope. 2 survivors instead of 1, both escaping with an innocent life preserved. This version also unlocked the chainsaw and rock drill weapons. Bad ending. Harry never helps Kaufman. Without the doctor's crucial intervention, Harry faces the god fetus alone and fails. After defeating it, there's no purification, no splitting of Alessa's soul. Instead, Alessa vanishes entirely, consumed by the ritual's failure. Harry stands in the collapsing nightmare, and the game cuts to his car, crashed and broken at the start of the journey. It was all a dying dream. Harry Mason died in that initial accident, and everything that followed occurred in his final moments of consciousness. The town, the fog, the monsters, Cheryl, none of it real, just synaptic misfires in a dying brain trying to make sense of traumatic impact. This ending unlocked the same weapons as good. Bad plus ending. Again, Harry never helps Kaufman, dooming himself to face the god fetus without support, but he did save Sybil, which changes the ending slightly. The god fetus vanishes without being purified. Sybil finds Harry afterward and tries to snap him out of his devastated state, but he's emotionally shattered, barely responsive. The 2 of them sit in the nightmare as it decays around them. Sybil's attempts at comfort unable to reach Harry through his trauma. They presumably escape, but Harry is broken. The ending lingers on his empty expression, suggesting psychological damage that may never heal. Weapons unlocked as previous endings, plus the channeling stone which enables the UFO ending. UFO ending, available only on second playthrough and only in certain versions of the game, specifically the Greatest Hits PlayStation release, Xbox version, PC version, and HD collection. Harry must collect the channeling stone from the convenience store early in the game, then use it at 5 specific locations: the Otherworld Midwich Elementary School rooftop, outside Alchemilla Hospital before the moth fight, in the motel parking lot when opening room 3, inside the houseboat on the pier after meeting Sybil and Dahlia, and finally on the rooftop of the lighthouse after Alessa's appearance there. The ending plays as a roughly animated series of still images, deliberately crude in style. Harry reaches the lighthouse rooftop and activates the channeling stone one final time. UFOs descend from the sky. Harry, completely unfazed by alien spacecraft appearing, asks the gray extraterrestrials if they've seen a little girl around 7 years old. An alien responds by zapping him with a hyper blaster, the same weapon from previous games. The aliens load Harry's unconscious body onto their ship. The UFOs depart. Credits roll in the same crude animation style. It's pure absurdist comedy, a joke ending that acknowledges the artificiality of the entire enterprise while providing catharsis after the genuinely disturbing primary endings. The original Silent Hill established patterns that would echo through the entire series. Player actions determined outcomes. Characters could be saved or condemned by specific choices. Moral complexity mattered. Helping the morally dubious Kaufman led to the good ending, while ignoring him resulted in the bad outcome. And when things got too heavy, a UFO ending offered relief, a tradition Silent Hill would maintain across most subsequent entries. Silent Hill 2, The Psychology of Guilt. Silent Hill 2, released in September 2001, refined the multiple ending system into something more sophisticated and psychologically nuanced, where the first game tracked explicit player choices. Did you help this character? Did you collect this item? The second game monitored player behavior at a granular level, tracking actions that players might not even realize were meaningful. It created a secret point system that measured James Sunderland's will to live, his attachment to his dead wife Mary versus his attraction to Maria, and his overall psychological state. The ending you received reflected not just what you did, but who the game decided you were based on how you played. The system tracked dozens of factors with remarkable granularity. How often did you examine Mary's photo and letter in your inventory? 3 or more examinations increased your connection to Mary's memory, adding points toward the leave ending. Examining these items fewer than 3 times suggested disconnection, pushing toward in-water or Maria endings. Did you keep James healthy, healing damage promptly, or did you let him stay injured, bloodied on the screen? The game tracked healing patterns. Players who healed James immediately, maintaining green health, demonstrated will to live. Players who let James remain at critical health, the screen perpetually red with blood and distortion, indicated death wish or self-destructive tendency. The threshold was significant. Healing excessively, using more than 600 HP worth of healing items throughout the game, was interpreted as desperate clinging to life, contributing strongly to leave ending points. How much time did you spend with Maria versus avoiding her? The game tracked every interaction. When Maria lay ill in the hospital at Brookhaven, James could check on her multiple times. Each visit, each expression of concern, each moment spent in that room accumulated Maria points. When Maria was imprisoned in the labyrinth, James could speak to her through bars, spending time there, engaging in conversation, showing care. All of it counted. Conversely, ignoring Maria, walking past without checking in, failing to protect her during combat encounters, letting her take damage from monsters. These actions reduce Maria points and increase leave or in-water points depending on other factors. Did you listen to the entire sickbed conversation in the hallway before the final boss? This was a crucial moment. Before facing the last monsters, James hears Mary's voice from a hospital bed, speaking her final words to him. The conversation lasts several minutes. Players who listened to all of it, standing patiently as Mary expressed her love, pain, and farewell, demonstrated they were ready to hear truth and accept her death. This contributed points to both leave and in-water endings. Both required James to face Mary's reality, rather than flee into Maria's fantasy. Players who skipped the conversation, walking away before it concluded, subtracted points from these endings and increased Maria likelihood. Did you examine Angela's knife multiple times? Angela Roscoe gives James her knife after their final encounter on the stairwell. It's an instrument of violence and potential suicide, something she carried as protection from her abusive father. If James repeatedly examined this knife in his inventory 3 or more times, the game interpreted this as fixation on death, on weapons of self-harm, on endings. This behavior strongly contributed to in-water ending points, suggesting James was contemplating suicide throughout the journey. How aggressively did you fight Pyramid Head in your first encounter at the Blue Creek Apartments? This early boss fight is scripted to end automatically after a timer expires. Players don't need to deal any damage, they just need to survive 3 minutes. But the game tracked what you did during those 3 minutes. Players who actively engaged Pyramid Head, shooting at him, attacking despite his seeming invulnerability, trying to fight back, demonstrated defiance and will to resist. This was interpreted as life affirmation, contributing to leave ending. Players who ran, hid, avoided engagement, simply lasting until the scripted endpoint, demonstrate acceptance of forces beyond their control, and passive endurance rather than active resistance. This contributed to in-water ending, suggesting someone waiting for death rather than fighting it. Reading certain documents mattered. The diary on the hospital rooftop written by a man contemplating suicide counted if examined carefully. Notes about death and suffering, if read thoroughly rather than skipped, accumulated in-water points. The memos and notes spread throughout environments weren't just lore, they were tests of what captured your attention. Did you read about death and endings, or did you focus on practical information about keys and progression? Even seemingly minor behaviors counted. Going in the wrong direction when Maria was following you, prompting her to call out and redirect you, subtracted points from Maria ending if done too often, suggesting you didn't care about her guidance, not protecting Maria from monster attacks, letting her health bar deplete significantly, worked against Maria ending despite spending time with her. The game wanted consistency. If you were pursuing Maria's affection, you needed to show it through care, not just proximity. The game calculated all these factors: Mary's letter examinations, photo viewing, health management, healing totals, Maria interactions, conversation listening, Angela's knife inspections, Pyramid Head combat approach, document reading patterns, navigation choices, and dozens more subtle behaviors at a specific moment when you step through the final door after the hallway conversation with Mary. Your ending is locked in at that instant based on accumulated points. There are 3 main endings available on first playthrough, plus 2 additional endings on New Game Plus, plus joke endings. Each action contributed points toward one of 3 main endings. The game calculates all these factors at a specific moment when you step through the final door after the hallway conversation with Mary. Your ending is locked in at that instant based on accumulated points. There are 3 main endings available on first playthrough, plus 2 additional endings on New Game Plus, plus joke endings. The 2024 remake maintained this system, but added 2 new endings exclusive to the remake. Leave ending, generally considered the canonical ending by fans, though the developers have stated no ending is truly canon. James wanted to survive. He kept himself healthy, healing promptly when injured. He examined Mary's photo and letter regularly, maintaining connection to his actual wife rather than the manifestation Maria. He didn't check on Maria excessively when she was hospitalized or imprisoned. He chose not to aggressively attack Pyramid Head, instead just surviving the encounter. He listened to the entire final conversation. All of this accumulates into a picture of someone who wants to live and wants to remember Mary properly, rather than cling to false comfort. After defeating the final manifestations and accepting the full truth of Mary's murder, James ascends from the hotel. In the leave ending, he emerges with Laura, the young girl who knew Mary from the hospital. They walk out together. The implication is that James will adopt Laura, fulfilling Mary's dying wish to care for the child she'd befriended. James is leaving Silent Hill with a purpose, to honor Mary's memory by doing what she asked, by taking responsibility for this child who deserves better. It's the most hopeful ending, suggesting James might build something good from catastrophic guilt. The game doesn't show his legal consequences for Mary's murder, if any, but it suggests psychological movement toward acceptance rather than destruction. In Water Ending, the game interpreted your actions as reflecting James's death wish. You let him stay injured, the screen frequently red with blood. You examined Angela's knife repeatedly, that instrument she'd used to defend herself from her father, that instrument of violent escape. You didn't maintain connection to Mary's photo or letter. The game decided James doesn't want to live. After the final battle, James retrieves the videotape from the car, the one that shows the murder. He returns to the hotel room where his guilt crystallized. He speaks to Mary in voiceover, a letter he's writing to her even in death. He acknowledges what he did. He explains that he's keeping the promise he made to her, to be together always. James gets in his car with Mary's body, which he's been carrying this entire time in the back seat, wrapped and preserved. He drives to Toluca Lake. The car plunges into the water. James and Mary descend together into the depths, reunited in death, the only reunion James believes he deserves. The ending credits roll over water, final and complete. Many players receive this ending on first playthrough because they naturally let James get injured during learning the combat system and examine everything in their inventory, not knowing these actions were being tracked. Maria ending, the hardest ending to achieve intentionally because it requires very specific behavior throughout. James must focus intensely on Maria while avoiding connection to Mary. This means not examining Mary's photo or letter, but constantly checking on Maria whenever possible, visiting her in the hospital room at Brookhaven, checking on her in the prison cell, at the labyrinth, protecting her excessively during combat encounters. It requires deliberately spending time with Maria, engaging with optional dialogue, keeping her safe. The game interprets this as James rejecting his real wife in favor of the fantasy Maria represents. After the final battle, James emerges from the hotel with Maria. She looks exactly like Mary, but isn't her. She's the idealized, sexualized, compliant version of a woman James wished Mary had been. They leave Silent Hill together in James's car. Maria coughs, the same cough Mary had during her illness. James, disturbed, tells Maria she should get that looked at. Maria smiles and says she will, but the implication is devastating. Maria is already beginning the same cycle. James learned nothing. He's replacing one dying woman with another, doomed to repeat the same pattern of resentment, obligation, and eventual murder. Silent Hill manifested Maria specifically to tempt James toward this choice, and he took it. The ending suggests he'll do this again and again, trapped in an endless loop of his own psychological patterns. Rebirth Ending, only available in New Game Plus. James must collect 4 specific ritual items scattered throughout the game: the white chrism outside Baldwin Mansion, the obsidian goblet inside the Silent Hill Historical Society, the Book of Lost Memories in the Lost and Found room at Lakeview Hotel, and the Book of Crimson Ceremony from the graveyard where you first meet Angela. These items reference the cult's resurrection rituals. If James has all 4 items when he reaches the ending, he receives the rebirth ending automatically, overriding whatever points he accumulated toward the other endings. After the final battle, James rows out onto Toluca Lake in a small boat. Mary's body is with him. He's heading to a specific island, a place the cult use for their most powerful ceremonies. James intends to use the ritual items to resurrect Mary, to bring her back from death, to undo his crime through supernatural intervention. The ending stops before showing whether the ritual succeeds. It's deliberately ambiguous whether James actually brings Mary back or whether he simply descended into delusion, rowing endlessly on the lake in a state of psychological break. Either way, the ending suggests James hasn't accepted Mary's death or his responsibility. Instead of moving forward, he's trying to reverse time, to make it so his crime never happened, pursuing impossible solutions rather than facing reality. Dog ending, the second New Game Plus ending, and the series' most famous joke ending. James must find the dog key in the doghouse, in the open area near Rosewater Park's exit pathway. After viewing the videotape in room 312 of the hotel, instead of progressing normally, James uses the dog key to open the observation room on the hotel's third floor. Inside, he finds a Shiba Inu dog sitting at a control panel filled with levers and buttons. The room is revealed to be the control center for all of Silent Hill. A dog has been orchestrating everything: the fog, the monsters, James's entire journey. The dog is named Mira. She was doing science, making James dance through psychological torture for doggy amusement. James stares. The dog stares back. Credits roll to an upbeat song about the dog's control over the town. Its absurdist perfection, releasing all the game's heavy tension in one perfect punchline. A dog. The 2024 remake adds 2 new endings exclusive to that version. Stillness ending, only available if your first playthrough ended with In Water. At the start of New Game Plus, on Wilt's Road before the first enemy encounter, there's a green car you can break with the chainsaw. Inside is the Key of Sorrow. Carry this through the entire game. When you reach the Otherworld version of Lakeview Hotel, after viewing the tape in room 312, go to the manager's office. There's a new safe there. Use the Key of Sorrow on the physical lock and input the code 314 for the combination lock. Inside is a Toluca postcard. Examine it in your inventory, and it triggers the stillness ending, overriding whatever else you were tracking toward. This ending is an expanded, more explicitly suicidal version of In Water. James's actions are the same: retrieving the tape, acknowledging the murder, getting in the car with Mary's body. But the cinematography is different, more artistic, more beautifully tragic. The postcard suggests James has been planning this ending all along, that his entire journey was moving toward this one permanent exit. The title Stillness refers to death, to the peace of non-existence, to James finally becoming motionless after so much guilty wandering. Bliss ending, also New Game Plus exclusive, requires collecting all 8 glimpses of the past throughout the game. These are Polaroid photos scattered in various locations showing James and Mary during their happy times together. With all 8 photos collected, James receives the bliss ending. After the final battle, James finds himself back in room 312, but it's clean, pristine, untouched by the other world. Mary is there, alive and healthy, exactly as she was before her illness. She's not dead. James isn't guilty. Everything has been a nightmare, and now he's awake. James and Mary embrace. The ending suggests James has chosen to live completely in delusion, in memory, rejecting all of reality in favor of happier times. He's locked himself in his own mind, where Mary is still alive, where his crime never happened, where everything is blissful and frozen in that perfect moment before disease and death entered their lives. It's arguably more disturbing than In Water because James hasn't ended his life. He's ended his engagement with reality, choosing fantasy over truth, becoming completely unmoored from what actually happened. Silent Hill 2's endings represent the pinnacle of the series' psychological approach. The game doesn't tell you what James feels, it infers it from your actions, then reflects that back in the ending. Play carefully, heal promptly, maintain connection to Mary's memory, and you leave toward a possible future. Let James suffer, fixate on death imagery, cling to Maria, or wallow in suicidal ideation, and the game gives you endings that match. The brilliance is that most players have no idea they're being tracked, making the ending feel like an organic conclusion rather than a calculated reward. Your Silent Hill 2 ending reveals as much about you as it does about James. Silent Hill 3, Heather's Rage. Silent Hill 3, released in May 2003, took a different approach to endings. Where Silent Hill 2 had elaborate hidden systems tracking psychological states, Silent Hill 3 used a straightforward point accumulation system. The twist was that most players didn't know they were accumulating points, so the ending still felt somewhat organic. But the system was binary and simple. Accumulate enough points and you get the bad ending. Stay below the threshold and you get the normal ending. The joke ending required specific weapon usage. The point system tracked 3 variables. First, every point of damage Heather took awarded 1 point toward the possessed ending. Taking 1,000 points of damage across the entire game equals 1,000 points. Second, every monster killed granted 10 points. Killing 100 enemies equals another 1,000 points. Third, during the church segment, if Heather chose to forgive the person in the confessional rather than refusing forgiveness, she received an additional 1,000 points. Add these 3 categories together, and if the total exceeded 4,000 points, Heather received the possessed ending. If it stayed below 4,000, she received the normal ending. This created a fascinating dynamic for players who knew the system. Want the normal ending again? Avoid combat. Take minimal damage. Don't forgive in the church. Run past everything. Stay hidden. Want the possessed ending? Fight everything. Be aggressive. Tank hits. Forgive. The system incentivized either extreme pacifism or extreme violence. Normal ending. The only ending available on first playthrough, since accumulating 4,000 points requires intentional aggressive play or repeated New Game Plus attempts building carryover damage. Heather confronts Claudia Wolf in the sanctuary of the Order's Church. Claudia has swallowed the god fetus that Heather vomited up. Yes, that actually happens. It's a whole disturbing sequence. And the god is now gestating inside Claudia's body. Heather battles the manifestation of the cult's deity made flesh through Claudia's belief. After the battle, as the creature dies, Claudia dies with it. The god failed to be born properly. Heather has prevented the cult's apocalypse. She and Douglas Cartland, the private investigator who helped her throughout the journey, leave Silent Hill together. Douglas survived. Heather survived. The nightmare ends not with Heather alone, but with an ally, with someone who came to care about her despite being hired just to track her down. In the final scene, Heather visits Harry's grave. She's processing grief, but moving forward. She tells Douglas to call her Cheryl, her original name, Harry's name for her, acknowledging who she was before forced rebirth. Douglas asks if she'll also return to her original black hair color, joking that maybe blondes have more fun. Heather smiles. The moment is warm, human, hopeful. She's choosing to remember Harry while accepting herself as she is now. Credits roll to the song Homeland, gentle and sad and beautiful. This ending is canonical based on references in later games. Silent Hill Homecoming mentions Douglas Cartland exposing the cult's crimes after the events of Silent Hill 3, which could only happen if he lived. The Order's activities after Silent Hill 3 are described as scattered and broken, confirming Heather succeeded in destroying their god and dismantling their power structure. Possessed ending, available only on New Game Plus once you've completed the game at least once. Requires accumulating at least 4,000 points through the 3-category system described above, most commonly achieved by fighting aggressively, taking damage recklessly, and forgiving in the church. Everything proceeds normally until the very end. After Heather defeats Claudia and the god creature, the scene shifts. Heather stands in the otherworld version of Lakeside Amusement Park, exactly where the carousel sits, the same location where Harry fought the possessed Sybil in the first Silent Hill. Douglas lies on the ground before her, stabbed to death. Heather holds her knife, soaked in blood. Her expression is blank, empty, possessed by something beyond human emotion. Claudia's final words echo, "Lead believers to paradise with blood-stained hands." Heather has killed Douglas. She's become what the cult wanted her to become, the vessel for their god, the harbinger of their paradise. The god didn't fail to be born. It was born successfully inside Heather, consuming her personality, using her body to enact divine will, starting with the murder of her closest ally. The ending suggests Heather no longer exists as herself. She's been completely subsumed by the entity she was supposed to destroy. It's a devastating bad ending, made worse by the fact that achieving it requires playing aggressively, fighting everything, showing Heather as someone who embraces violence rather than avoiding it. The game is saying that if Heather becomes too comfortable with killing, too desensitized to violence, too willing to take and receive damage, she loses her humanity and becomes monstrous. The point system is a judgment on the player's approach to survival horror. Do you fight everything because you can, or do you preserve humanity by avoiding unnecessary violence? The possessed ending is the consequence of choosing combat over retreat. UFO/revenge ending, another joke ending. This one requiring extremely specific conditions that are difficult to achieve accidentally. Heather must unlock the Heather Beam weapon by killing 333 total monsters across all playthroughs. The game tracks cumulative kills across multiple games. Once the Heather Beam is available, start a new game. Before reaching Heather's apartment for the first time, kill 30 enemies using only the Heather Beam. If these conditions are met, the UFO ending triggers. The ending is drawn in simple, crude comic book style, reminiscent of the first game's UFO ending, but updated. Heather arrives home and finds Harry alive and well. No murder, no tragedy. Harry is sitting at the kitchen table having tea with an alien. James Sunderland from Silent Hill 2 is also there for some reason, watching awkwardly. Heather tells them everything that's happened throughout Silent Hill 3, the cult, the god, the horrible journey. Harry gets extremely agitated. He announces that he's going to Silent Hill and he's going to bust some heads. He performs a dramatic flying kick, breaking a board James is holding. The alien looks on impassively. Heather cheers. "Oh, Dad, you're the coolest." UFOs appear and begin destroying Silent Hill with laser fire, obliterating the town in spectacular fashion. It's the only ending in Silent Hill 3 where Harry survives, which is darkly funny. He's only alive in the joke ending, the one that explicitly doesn't count. Players who desperately wanted Harry to survive get their wish in the most absurd way possible. Silent Hill 3's ending system was simpler than its predecessor, but still effective. The normal ending provided closure to Harry and Cheryl/Heather's story, completing the arc begun in the first game. The possessed ending warned against becoming what you fight. The UFO ending gave exhausted players exactly the catharsis they needed after the game's intense horror. And unlike Silent Hill 2, where endings reflected character psychology. Silent Hill 3's endings reflected player approach to gameplay, pacifist or violent, careful or reckless. Both systems work, just measuring different things. Silent Hill 4, The Room's Prison. Silent Hill 4. The Room, released in June 2004, departed from series norms in many ways. Set primarily in an apartment rather than the town itself, following a protagonist who seems more victim than active participant, functioning as much through first-person perspective as third-person. It was experimental even by Silent Hill standards. Its ending system reflected this different approach, measuring two specific factors: whether you protected Eileen Galvin from damage and whether you cleansed the apartment's hauntings. 4 endings resulted from combinations of these variables. The hauntings mechanic was unique to Silent Hill 4. As the game progressed, Henry Townshend's apartment room 302 became increasingly infected with supernatural phenomena. Ghosts appeared, objects became possessed, the environment itself turned hostile. Henry could cleanse these hauntings using saint medallions and candles found throughout the other worlds. The percentage of hauntings cleared determined 2 of the 4 possible endings. The threshold was 80%. Clear at least 80% of hauntings, and you qualified for the good haunting outcomes. Clear less than 80%, and the apartment remained cursed. Eileen's survival depended on 2 factors. First, how much damage she took while accompanying Henry through the second half of the game. Eileen couldn't die while with Henry, but damage accumulated toward her final state, let her get hit constantly, and she became progressively more possessed by Walter Sullivan, the game's antagonist. Keep her safe, and she remained herself. Second, during the final boss battle, Henry had to stop Eileen from walking into a death trap while simultaneously fighting Walter's manifestations. If Eileen took too much cumulative damage throughout the game, this final rescue might be impossible. She'd die regardless of player action. If she'd been protected, Henry could save her. Her survival or death was the second variable. These 2 factors, haunting clearance and Eileen's fate, created a 2x2 matrix. Good hauntings with Eileen alive, bad hauntings with Eileen alive, good hauntings with Eileen dead, bad hauntings with Eileen dead. 4 endings. Escape ending. The best outcome. Henry cleared at least 80% of the apartment's hauntings, cleansing the space of Walter's influence. Henry saved Eileen during the final battle, rescuing her before she walked into the giant machine's killing mechanism. After Walter's defeat, both Henry and Eileen survive and escape the nightmare. The apartment returns to normal. Eileen, recovering in St. Jerome's Hospital, receives flowers from Henry. They speak warmly. Their relationship has been strengthened by shared trauma. Eileen says, "Guess I'll have to find a new place to live, huh?" Acknowledging that she's leaving South Ashfield Heights, that the building and its memories are too tainted to return to. Both are moving forward, separately but connected. Young Walter, the child manifestation, knocks on the door of room 302 in the nightmare realm, calling for his mother to let him in, but receives no answer. He falls to his knees and fades away. The ritual failed. The 21 sacraments are broken. Walter's consciousness disperses. Henry and Eileen are free. Mother ending. Henry saved Eileen, so she's alive and recovering. But Henry didn't clear enough of the apartment's hauntings. Less than 80% were cleansed. Eileen survives, but when she and Henry talk in the hospital, her dialogue is different. She mentions returning to South Ashfield Heights, to the apartment building. Henry's expression suggests concern. The ending title, Mother, is ominous. It refers to Walter's obsession with room 302 as his mother, and the implication is that the apartment remains haunted, possessed, still under Walter's influence. Eileen returning there suggests she might be drawn back into the nightmare. Walter hasn't been fully defeated because his spiritual presence remains in the apartment. The 21 sacraments might not be complete, but Walter's ghost endures, waiting. Henry and Eileen escaped physically, but not spiritually. Eileen's death ending. Henry cleared at least 80% of hauntings, purifying the apartment, but he failed to save Eileen. Either she took too much damage throughout the game, making the final rescue impossible, or Henry failed at the critical moment. Eileen dies from her injuries. After Walter's defeat, Henry returns to his apartment. It's clean, normal, no longer haunted because Henry cleansed it properly, but the victory is hollow. Henry sits up in bed and hears a radio broadcast announcing that Eileen Galvin, resident of room 303, has died from wounds sustained in unknown circumstances. Henry falls to his knees and says her name. The ending focuses on his grief, his failure. He destroyed Walter and cleansed the apartment, but lost the one person he was trying to protect. Young Walter fades away in his realm, the ritual broken, but Henry's personal loss overshadows the victory. The 21 sacraments are stopped, but at terrible cost. 21 sacraments ending, the worst outcome. Henry didn't clear enough hauntings, less than 80%, and he failed to save Eileen. She died from accumulated damage or Henry's failure at the final moment. Both conditions failed. After Walter falls in battle, Henry clutches his head in pain, then seems to stand differently, possessed. Young Walter finds his way into room 302, cuddling up to the couch, whispering, "I'm home. I won't let anyone get in the way. I'm going to stay with you forever." The radio announces that multiple people have died, including Henry Townsend and Eileen Galvin. The 21 sacraments are complete. Walter achieved his goal. Henry's body is now a vessel for Walter's consciousness. The apartment has become Walter's mother permanently. The ritual succeeded. Walter is home, reunited with what he believed was his mother, and will remain there eternally, trapped in his own delusion. The Order's God wasn't born, but something arguably worse happened. Walter's consciousness achieved immortality through the apartment's permanent possession. Reality warps around room 302 indefinitely. This ending is considered the most narratively interesting by many fans and critics despite being the worst outcome. It's tragic, complete, and thematically powerful. Walter's sad, broken childhood leading to eternal isolation in the very space he thought would give him love. The game's creators admitted they favored this ending for its storytelling impact. Some players deliberately choose it to experience the full weight of the game's themes. Silent Hill 4 was the only mainline game without a UFO ending, though data mining revealed remnants of one in the files that was never implemented. The ending system was simpler than Silent Hill 2's psychology tracking, but more mechanically integrated than Silent Hill 3's point system. Protecting Eileen and cleansing hauntings weren't abstract moral choices, they were concrete gameplay challenges. The endings reflected player competence and attention as much as moral alignment, measuring whether you understood and engaged with the game's unique mechanics. Did you figure out how hauntings worked? Did you prioritize Eileen's safety? Your understanding of the game's systems determined the outcome. Silent Hill Origins, before it all began. Silent Hill Origins released November 2007 for PSP and March 2008 for PlayStation 2, served as a prequel to the entire franchise. Set 7 years before the first game, developed by Climax Studios rather than Team Silent, It had to bridge to established canon while telling its own story about trucker Travis Grady. Its ending system was remarkably simple, a normal good ending that everyone received, a second playthrough bad ending requiring specific actions, and the traditional UFO joke ending. Unlike previous games where endings reflected character psychology or moral choices, Origin's multiple endings served different purposes. The good ending was canonical and inevitable, setting up Silent Hill 1 precisely. The bad ending was pure New Game Plus bonus content, offering a dark alternate interpretation that explicitly contradicted the character's later appearance in Silent Hill Homecoming. The UFO ending was classic series absurdism. Good ending, the canonical outcome. Everyone who completes the game receives this ending on their first playthrough. No special conditions required. Just finish the story. Travis confronts the Butcher manifestation in the theater, defeats it, and collects the final piece of the Floros. The ritual grounds await. Travis enters to find the cult attempting to birth their god through Alessa Gillespie's immolated body. Dr. Michael Kaufman, acting on the cult's behalf, incapacitates Travis. In a dreamlike sequence, Travis battles and traps the demon within the Floros, a supernatural artifact designed to contain malevolent entities. Alessa's spirit manifestation uses the completed Floros to break free from Dahlia's control, which had suppressed her abilities. With her power restored, Alessa splits her soul. Half remains with her burned, suffering body. The other half manifests as a baby, the baby Harry and Jody Mason will find and adopt, naming her Cheryl. Alessa's spirit carries the infant to the edge of town, seeing Travis off. Travis returns to his truck, finding it intact despite everything. He drives away from Silent Hill, cheerfully escaping the nightmare. The ending explicitly bridges to Silent Hill 1. Dialogue confirms Harry and Jody adopt the baby. Dolly and Kaufman discuss casting a spell to draw the other half of Alessa's soul back to Silent Hill years later, setting up the events of the first game. Travis served his purpose. He assembled the Floros, enabling Alessa to resist the ritual long enough to separate her soul, buying 7 years of peace before Silent Hill 1 begins. Travis is a catalyst in the larger mythology, a unwitting assistant in Alessa's desperate gambit for freedom and revenge. The ending unlocked the Moon Gauntlet's weapon, the Savior costume, and confirmed Origin's place in canon. Travis later cameos at the start of Homecoming, driving Alex Shepard toward his hometown, proving Travis survived and continued his trucker career. The good ending is definitive. This is what happened. Bad ending, only available in New Game Plus. Requires killing at least 130 enemies throughout the playthrough. A high body count that requires aggressive, violent play, seeking out and destroying every monster encountered. Most players won't naturally reach this threshold even in combat-heavy playthroughs. You have to go looking for monsters to kill, playing as a murderer rather than a survivor. If the kill count exceeds 130, the ending changes drastically. After apparently defeating the final boss, Travis awakens strapped to a gurney in a dimly lit room. He's restrained, helpless. Someone injects him with an unknown substance. Travis convulsions. Visions flash, Travis killing people, his form briefly replaced by the Butcher. The scene reveals a shocking reinterpretation. Travis Grady is, or might be, a serial killer. The Butcher wasn't a manifestation of Silent Hill or his repressed trauma. The Butcher is Travis. He's been killing people, and his mind has been shielding him from his crimes, creating elaborate delusions to protect him from the truth of what he is. Evidence throughout the game supports this reading if you look for it. A note in the theater's library suggests Travis might be on a killing spree. Photos of naked women with various methods of death. Shotgun wounds, stabbings, snake bites, overdoses appear throughout the Riverside Motel, possibly Travis's victims. The butcher, as Travis's shadow self, becomes literal rather than metaphorical. The ending suggests Travis is being brainwashed by the cult, potentially recruited as an asset because of his existing violent capabilities. The two-way mirror at the ending's conclusion shows a cult member observing, suggesting institutional manipulation. This ending directly contradicts the established canon. Travis appears alive and normal decades later in Homecoming, clearly not an institutionalized serial killer. The bad ending is explicitly non-canonical, an alternate timeline what-if scenario. But it's disturbing precisely because it recontextualizes the entire game. Every monster fight could have been Travis killing innocent people while hallucinating. The otherworld transitions could have been Travis's psychotic breaks. The whole adventure could have been a murderer's dissociative fugue state. It's a dark mirror to the good ending's heroism, suggesting that changing a few details inverts Travis from savior to monster. The bad ending unlocked the Great Cleaver weapon and the butcher costume, marking the playthrough's violent approach. UFO ending. The series tradition continues. Available in New Game Plus, requires finding the room 502 key on the staircase of the post office in central Silent Hill. When Travis reaches the otherworld version of Riverside Motel, he can unlock room 502. This is the room where his father Richard committed suicide, a traumatic memory central to Travis's personal demons. Instead of confronting that trauma, Travis uses the key. It doesn't work. The door won't open. A UFO descends from the sky, settling in front of Travis. The hatch opens, revealing an alien and Mira, the famous Shiba Inu dog from Silent Hill 2's dog ending, now wearing a transparent space helmet because she's adapted to space travel. They greet Travis enthusiastically. The alien explains that Travis's truck, which he abandoned at the start of the game when he swerved to avoid hitting Alessa's spirit, has been relocated. It's on the alien's home planet. They took it for safekeeping, or possibly just because they could. Travis, delighted by this news, asks if he can pilot the UFO. The alien responds, "Do you drive stick?" Travis laughs. They all laugh. A tractor beam pulls Travis aboard. The UFO ascends and departs, Travis leaving Silent Hill with alien assistance to retrieve his truck from another planet. The ending's visual style switches to anime-esque artwork, more colorful and cartoony than the game's realistic graphics. It's pure comic relief after the game's disturbing themes: Travis's mother trying to murder him as a child, his father's suicide, the cult's horrific treatment of Alessa. The joke is that Travis's biggest concern, ultimately, is retrieving his truck. Professional trucker priorities. The UFO ending acknowledges that sometimes you need an alien dog to rescue you from recursive psychological horror and help you get back to work. Origin's ending system served the specific needs of a prequel. The good ending had to align perfectly with established canon, explaining how the baby came to exist and why the events of Silent Hill 1 occurred 7 years later. The bad ending could experiment with dark alternatives precisely because it was non-canonical New Game Plus content. The UFO ending continued series tradition while acknowledging the absurdity of prequels. We already know how this story ends because we played the later games, so why not have fun with it? Origins endings were less about player choice and more about fulfilling narrative obligations while offering bonus variations for dedicated players. Silent Hill, Homecoming, The Sacrifice Required. Silent Hill, Homecoming, released September 2008, returned multiple endings to a choice-based system, but simplified it considerably compared to Silent Hill 2's elaborate tracking. 3 binary choices determined the ending. Did you forgive your father? Did you mercy kill your mother? Did you save Wheeler? These yes or no decisions at specific moments created different ending combinations. The system was criticized for making choices too obvious and mechanical, lacking the subtlety of earlier games. But it integrated with Homecoming's themes about families, sacrifice, and accountability. The game's story revealed that Shepherd's Glen, Alex Shepard's hometown, was founded by 4 families who broke away from Silent Hill's order cult. They made a pact. Every 50 years, each family would sacrifice one of their children in a specific manner to appease the order's god and maintain peace. The ritual had continued for 150 years until Alex's generation, when the Shepherd family failed to perform their sacrifice. Alex's father Adam was supposed to kill his son Joshua, drowning him in the lake. Adam couldn't do it. This failure broke the pact, unleashing the town's nightmares and bringing Silent Hill's judgment upon Shepherd's Glen. The 3 key choices occur near the game's end. First, Adam Shepard appears and reveals the truth about Josh's death. It wasn't an accident. Alex was jealous of Joshua, the favored younger son. During a boat trip, Alex let Joshua drown, whether intentionally or through negligent malice. Adam tried to cover this up, but the pact was still broken, and his failure to perform the proper sacrifice doomed everyone. Adam begs Alex for forgiveness before being killed by the bogeyman. The game prompts the player, forgive or don't forgive. Second, Lillian Shepard, Alex's mother, has been catatonic with grief. Near the end, Alex finds her and has the option to mercy kill her with a pillow, ending her suffering, or let her live in her broken mental state. Again, kill or don't kill. Third, Deputy Wheeler, who helped Alex throughout the journey, is found gravely injured. Alex can give him a medical kit to save his life, or leave him to die. Save or don't save. These 3 binary choices create 8 possible combinations, but Homecoming uses only 5. Some combinations collapse into the same ending. The 5 endings are good, smile, drowning, hospital, bogeyman, and UFO. Good smile ending, achieved by forgiving Adam, mercy killing Lillian, and saving Wheeler. Alex made all the compassionate choices: forgiveness, mercy, rescue. After defeating the final boss Amnion, a monstrous manifestation of Joshua's drowning, Alex apologizes to Joshua's spirit. The nightmare realm collapses. Alex and Elle Holloway, an ally from Shepherd's Glen who was captured by the cult, escape together. Outside, Elle asks Alex what he saw down there in the depths. Alex replies, "What I needed to." It's a moment of acceptance. Alex has confronted his guilt, made amends where possible, chosen compassion despite his crime. He and Elle leave Shepherd's Glen behind, survivors bonded by shared trauma. If you collected all 11 photos hidden throughout the game, or beat the game on hard difficulty, a bonus scene plays after the credits. Alex enters his house and sees wet footprints leading upstairs. Following them to the bedroom he shared with Joshua, Alex finds his brother sitting on the bed, soaking wet, alive but ghostly. Joshua holds a camera. He snaps a photo of Alex and laughs, a childish, innocent sound. The Polaroid develops into the mysterious photo Alex found earlier in the game, closing a time loop. Joshua forgives Alex. The scene suggests Joshua's spirit has found peace, that the brothers' relationship has been reconciled across death. It's the most hopeful ending in the game, offering redemption despite Alex's crime. This ending unlocks the trucker costume, Travis Grady's outfit, and the circular saw weapon. Drowning ending, achieved by not forgiving Adam, but mercy killing Lillian. Alex chose mercy for his mother, but rejected his father's plea for forgiveness. After the nightmare collapses, Alex awakens in the bathtub in his family home. His father Adam enters, calm and purposeful. Adam explains that with Alex's death, Joshua can carry on the family legacy, that Alex must die so the pact can be fulfilled retroactively, so the Shepherd family can be restored. Adam pushes Alex's head underwater and holds him there. Alex struggles. The screen fades to black as Alex drowns, his father's hands never relenting. Adam completes the sacrifice that should have happened years ago, but it's too late to save the town. The pact is still broken. Alex just dies for nothing, murdered by his father as belated ritual offering. This ending unlocks the Order soldier costume, the mining outfit from the church, and gives the achievement in water, referencing Silent Hill 2's suicide ending. It's the darkest of the serious endings, suggesting that refusing forgiveness leads to your own death, that mercy without forgiveness is incomplete. Hospital ending, achieved by forgiving Adam but not mercy killing Lillian. Alex showed compassion to his father but couldn't bring himself to end his mother's suffering. After the nightmare, Alex awakens restrained on a medical gurney in a hospital room. He's staring at the number 206 on the wall, the room number. 2 doctors stand nearby. Alex panics, struggling against the restraints, insisting he did leave, that everything was real. One doctor tells him no, he never left the hospital. Alex has been a patient in room 206 this entire time, institutionalized after Joshua's death. Everything Alex experienced, returning to Shepherd's Glen, the monsters, the other world, the cult, was hallucinatory, a psychotic break stemming from unprocessed guilt over his brother's death. Alex isn't a soldier returning home. He's a mental patient who needs to accept reality and responsibility for his actions. The doctors prepare electroshock therapy, electrodes attached to Alex's temples. The screen goes white as electricity courses through Alex's brain, the doctors determined to break through his delusions. The ending suggests Alex has been in the hospital all along, that the entire game has been his fractured mind trying to process guilt through elaborate fantasy. It's ambiguous whether this interpretation is true, or whether this is another layer of Silent Hill's punishment, replacing Alex's actual experiences with false memories of institutionalization. Either way, Alex is trapped. This ending unlocks the ER Alex costume and explores the theme of unreliable narrators. If Alex is mentally ill, maybe nothing we played actually happened. Maybe Joshua's death was an accident and Alex's guilt manifested the conspiracy. Maybe there is no cult, no pact, no supernatural horror, just one broken young man's mind eating itself. Bogeyman ending, achieved by not forgiving Adam, not killing Lillian, and not saving Wheeler. Alex made all the harsh choices. No forgiveness, no mercy, no rescue. After the battle, Alex awakens in a dark room, strapped to a chair. 2 bogeymen approach, the pyramid-headed executioners that serve as the game's punishers. They carry ritualistic equipment. Alex struggles but can't escape. The bogeymen perform a transformation ritual. Alex screams. When he stands, he's become one of them. His head is encased in a triangular metal helmet. His body is wrapped in the bogeyman's leather and straps. He releases a triumphant or horrified scream. The sound is ambiguous, as is Alex's state of mind. Has he been damned to serve as eternal punisher? Has he embraced his role as killer? Is this hell or apotheosis? The ending doesn't explain. Alex is bogeyman now, transformed into the thing he fought, becoming judgment incarnate. This ending unlocks the bogeyman costume and explores the theme of becoming what you fight. By refusing compassion at every opportunity, by embracing harshness and violence, Alex transformed into the very thing that hunted him. The bogeyman in Silent Hill 2 was Pyramid Head, James's self-punishment. In Homecoming, bogeymen are manifestations of guilt and the need for punishment across multiple characters. Alex joining their ranks suggests he's given up his humanity, accepting damnation as appropriate. UFO ending, achieved by not forgiving Adam, not killing Lillian, but saving Wheeler. Almost the same choices as the bogeyman ending, except Wheeler lives. This small difference, showing compassion to one person, changes the outcome dramatically. After defeating Amnion, Alex and Elle escape the nightmare and emerge through a manhole in Silent Hill proper. Elle is waiting for Alex, relieved they both survived. They embrace. Then a bright light appears overhead. A UFO descends. The hatch opens. Aliens emerge and abduct both Alex and Elle via tractor beam. They're pulled into the spacecraft. The UFO departs. The ending is completely wordless and matter-of-fact, shot in realistic, in-game graphics rather than joke art styles. It's unsettling precisely because it's played straight. After all the supernatural horror, psychological trauma, and revelations about cults and sacrifices, the actual resolution is alien abduction. It's absurdist deadpan, the game saying, and then aliens with complete seriousness. Wheeler presumably watches from wherever he's recovering, witnessing his friends get abducted by extraterrestrials after saving Shepherd's Glen from ancient ritual gone wrong. This ending unlocks the deputy costume, Wheeler's uniform, and the laser pistol weapon with infinite ammo, the most powerful weapon in the game. The UFO ending was controversial because it was easy to stumble into on first playthrough. Previous games reserved UFO endings for New Game Plus with specific conditions. Homecoming let you get it immediately if you happened to make the right 3 choices, which felt accidental rather than rewarding for many players. Homecoming's ending system was the most mechanical in the series. 3 explicit choices, binary options, deterministic outcomes, no hidden tracking, no subtle accumulation of player behavior, just clear decision points. Some fans appreciated the transparency. You could choose your ending directly. Others felt it reduced the psychological depth that made earlier endings feel organic and personal. The endings themselves range from redemptive to horrific to absurd, covering the tonal range, but the mechanical system lacked the elegance of Silent Hill 2's Invisible Judgment or the thematic integration of Silent Hill 4's gameplay-based determination. Homecoming knew what it was and committed to it, straightforward choice and consequence, letting players consciously decide how Alex's story would conclude. Silent Hill, shattered memories, the therapy never ends. Silent Hill, Shattered Memories, released December 2009, was a complete reimagining of the first Silent Hill rather than a sequel or continuation. It threw out established canon and rebuilt from scratch, focusing on one core concept. The entire game was a psychological therapy session, and every action you took revealed your mental state. The ending you received reflected not Harry Mason's psychology but yours, the player's personality as interpreted through your behavior. The framing device made this explicit. Between gameplay segments, you sat in Dr. Kaufman's therapy office as an unnamed patient. Kaufman administered psychological tests, asked personal questions, showed you ink blots, and asked what you saw. Your answers shaped the game. If you said you liked alcohol, bars appeared instead of diners. If you focused on sexual images, characters dressed more provocatively. If you acted like a family man, Harry wore warm, paternal clothing. If you acted selfish and shallow, Harry wore flashy, expensive outfits. The game was constantly judging you, adapting to reflect your choices. This affected the endings. Shattered Memories had 4 main ending variations plus 1 joke ending. The main endings were Love Lost, Drunk Dad, Sleaze and Sirens, and Wicked and Weak. Each represented a different psychological profile, a different interpretation of your personality based on how you played. The system tracked everything: which objects you examined, how you answered questions, how long you lingered on sexual imagery, whether you helped people or ignored them, even your browsing behavior when given Harry's cell phone. All endings shared the same core structure. The game's twist was that Harry Mason is dead. The protagonist isn't Harry, but his adult daughter Cheryl, now in her 20s, who has been seeing Dr. Kaufman for therapy. Cheryl never processed her father's death when she was 7 years old, instead creating an elaborate fantasy where Harry is still alive and searching for her. The entire game, Harry navigating Silent Hill looking for Cheryl, is Cheryl's delusion, her mind protecting her from the truth. The therapy sessions are real. Dr. Kaufman is trying to break through Cheryl's denial so she can grieve properly and move forward with her life. The ending's first segment shows Harry and Cheryl meeting in the Lighthouse Clinic. Depending on your profile, this encounter takes one of 3 forms. Acceptance. Cheryl accepts Harry's death. She tells him, "You've been with me for so long," and Harry replies, "I always will be." Harry smiles and freezes completely, becoming a statue, a memory preserved. Cheryl lowers her head. She's letting him go while keeping his memory. This is generally associated with the love lost profile. Players who acted like good, caring people who valued family. Blame. Cheryl refuses to let Harry touch her. She tells him someone has to be blamed for his death, that he left her alone, that his absence ruined her life. It's angry, accusatory. Cheryl won't forgive Harry for dying. This is generally associated with the wicked and weak profile. Players who acted selfish, weak, or indicated traumatic family relationships. Delusion. Cheryl is unwilling to let the fantasy go. She tells Harry he's a hero, that the man who died wasn't her real father, that her memories of a perfect searching father are all she has. Harry sullenly replies, "I'm not even a ghost." Cheryl hugs him and cries, clinging to the delusion. She's choosing fantasy over reality, keeping Harry alive in her mind even after Dr. Kaufman explained the truth. This is associated with profiles that indicated desperation for escape or disconnection from reality. After this meeting, the ending shifts to a home video that young Cheryl recorded of Harry years ago when he was alive. The content of this video varies based on your psychological profile. Love lost ending. Harry is packing a car, preparing to leave. He's divorcing Cheryl's mother, Dahlia. He tells young Cheryl not to film this, that the divorce isn't her fault. He explains that even though mom and dad don't love each other anymore, they both love her, and they always will. The scene is sad but warm. Harry is a good father having a difficult conversation, trying to protect his daughter from feeling responsible for adult problems. This ending suggests Harry was a loving, responsible person whose life was messy but whose heart was good. The song Acceptance plays during credits. This is the most positive interpretation of Harry and requires playing as a helpful, family-oriented, non-sexual person who doesn't fixate on drugs or alcohol. Drunk Dad. Ending. Harry is drunk, very drunk. Young Cheryl is filming him, and Harry yells at her to get him another beer. He blames his drinking on his family, on Cheryl, on everything around him. He's a hostile, mean drunk, an alcoholic father who makes his daughter responsible for his substance abuse. The scene is ugly and uncomfortable. This ending suggests Harry was a deeply flawed person whose addiction poisoned his relationships. It requires playing the game while focusing on alcohol references, answering questions about drinking positively, acting like someone with addiction issues, Sleaze and Sirens ending. Harry is in bed with Lisa Garland and Michelle Valdez, two women from the game. They ask if they can be in Harry's next book and if he can dedicate it to them. Harry says he dedicates his books to his wife and daughter because it's only fair, and all three laugh uproariously. Harry was a serial adulterer, a cheater, a man who betrayed his wife repeatedly while using dedication pages to maintain appearances. The scene suggests Harry's whole life was performative, that he played the good family man role while being a sleazy, unfaithful person. This ending requires fixating on sexual imagery throughout the game, staring at provocative posters, looking at characters' breasts during conversations, examining lingerie, generally acting like someone preoccupied with sex. Wicked and weak ending. Harry is in the bedroom, and Dahlia is verbally and physically abusing him. She slaps him repeatedly, tells him his novels are shit that nobody reads, calls him a pathetic, dickless waste of space, berates him for being poor and unsuccessful. Harry doesn't fight back. He takes the abuse passively. Young Cheryl captures it all on camera, documenting domestic violence. This ending suggests Harry was in an abusive relationship, that he was a victim of Dahlia's cruelty, that his weakness and inability to stand up for himself destroyed him. It requires answering questions negatively about social relationships, acting standoffish and weak, indicating bullying or abuse in your history. UFO ending. The joke ending, requiring specific actions. You must take photos of 13 UFOs scattered throughout the game using Harry's camera. If you photograph all 13, the UFO ending replaces whatever psychological profile you accumulated. Cheryl tells Dr. Kaufman she believes Harry was kidnapped by aliens, that Silent Hill itself is a giant spaceship. James Sunderland from Silent Hill 2 interrupts, confused. He has a therapy appointment too, and did he get the day wrong? Dr. Kaufman is frustrated that James can't keep his appointment straight. He mentions James's wife, Mary. I haven't seen her in a while. Should I be concerned? After James leaves, the scene continues. Cheryl transforms into Mira, the dog from Silent Hill 2's dog ending. She complains that her mother is a bitch, literally, female dog. Dr. Kaufman reveals himself to be an alien. It's layered absurdism, stacking joke references from previous games. The ending is illustrated rather than using in-game graphics, making its non-canonical status obvious. After whichever video plays, the final scene shows adult Cheryl alone, packing away mementos, the objects you collected during gameplay. She's moving on, organizing her memories, preparing to leave therapy and Harry behind. The ending suggests that regardless of which interpretation of Harry was true, loving but divorced, drunk and abusive, sleazy and unfaithful, or weak and victimized, Cheryl is finally processing his death and her childhood trauma. Shattered Memories' ending system was the most overtly psychological in the series. Unlike Silent Hill 2, which tracked your behavior without telling you, Shattered Memories announced from the start that you were being psychologically profiled. Dr. Kaufman explicitly stated in therapy that your answers would affect the experience, but the subtlety was in how those effects manifested. Players knew they were being judged but didn't know the specific consequences. The ending felt personal because it was literally about you, not Harry, not Cheryl, but your personality as expressed through gameplay. If you got the drunk dad ending, the game was saying something about how you approached its world. If you got Love Lost, that reflected different player behavior. It was Silent Hill as Rorschach test. using endings to make players examine their own psychology. The trade-off was that it was less effective as narrative. Since endings reflected the player rather than a consistent character, Harry's personality changed based on who was playing. There's no canonical Harry in Shattered Memories because he's whatever you made him. That flexibility was the point, reimagining Silent Hill as choose your own interpretation rather than fixed story. Some fans loved it for breaking conventions. Others felt it sacrificed narrative coherence for psychological experimentation. But no one could deny it was attempting something genuinely novel with how endings work in video games. Silent Hill, Downpour, Crime and Consequence. Silent Hill, Downpour, released March 2012, returned to a moral karma system similar to earlier games but with more transparency. The game tracked a moral score based on your actions throughout the game, then combined that with specific choices at key moments to determine the ending. Unlike Silent Hill 2's completely hidden tracking, Downpour made it somewhat clear when you were making moral decisions, though the exact score remained invisible. The moral score accumulated through several means. Killing monsters decreased your score. Incapacitating monsters without killing them, or avoiding them entirely, increased your score. Making compassionate choices, attempting to save Anne when she fell from a cliff, trying to talk JP out of suicide rather than pressuring him to do it, increased your score. Making cruel choices decreased it. The game was measuring whether Murphy Pendleton was trying to be a good person or giving in to violent impulses. 3 factors determined which of 6 possible endings you received. First, your accumulated moral karma, positive or negative. Second, in the finale, you must choose whether to kill Anne Marie Cunningham or spare her. Third, you must survive the final battle. If Anne kills Murphy, you get a specific ending regardless of other factors. After the first playthrough, a new side quest called Digging Up the Past unlocks, and completing it grants access to the 6th, joke ending. The endings were forgiveness, truth and justice, full circle, execution, reversal, and surprise. Forgiveness, ending, the best outcome, requires positive karma. You spared monsters, made compassionate choices, acted morally, and sparing Anne in the final confrontation. After Murphy transforms back from his bogeyman manifestation, Anne approaches him. Murphy apologizes, revealing the truth. He never murdered her father, Frank Coleridge. George Sewell, the corrupt corrections officer, killed Frank and framed Murphy for it. Murphy was innocent of Anne's specific accusation, though guilty of other crimes. Anne realizes the truth and forgives Murphy. They embrace. The nightmare dissolves and they reappear at a serene lake shore, back in reality. Police radio Anne asking for her location and whether she knows Murphy Pendleton's whereabouts. Anne lies for Murphy, telling them he died in the accident. Murphy asks if she'll be okay. Anne tells him he'd better go before the police arrive. Murphy departs into freedom. The scene ends with Anne looking out over the lake at clear skies after the storm. Both literal weather clearing and metaphorical, emotional resolution. This ending suggests Murphy earned redemption through his actions in Silent Hill. Despite being a convicted criminal who did kill Patrick Napier in revenge for his son's death, Murphy's behavior during the crisis proved he retained humanity and capacity for good. Anne recognized this and chose mercy over vengeance. Murphy escapes, free but not absolved. He's still a fugitive, still a killer, but he's shown he deserves a chance at something beyond punishment. The ending offers hope without pretending Murphy is entirely innocent, or that Anne's pain is negated. It's complicated, messy, human. Truth and justice. Ending. Requires negative karma but still sparing Anne. Murphy made poor moral choices, killing monsters aggressively, acting cruel or selfish, but at the final moment he chose mercy for Anne. After Murphy transforms back, he disarms Anne. Rather than killing her in rage, he lowers his weapon and raises his hands. Anne forgives him, learning the truth about Sewell's betrayal. Murphy and Anne leave Silent Hill together, the same as the forgiveness ending. But the epilogue differs. After the credits, a new scene plays. Anne enters Ryle State Prison and walks into George Sewell's office. She's holding a gun behind her back. She tells Sewell they need to talk. The scene cuts to black. A gunshot sounds. Anne has executed Sewell, taking revenge for her father's real murderer. The ending title, Truth and Justice, is ironic. Anne found truth, but her justice is murder, continuing the cycle of violence rather than breaking it. Murphy's choice to spare Anne led to another death, another act of vengeance. The ending suggests that moral failings don't vanish just because you make one compassionate choice. Murphy's negative karma throughout the game set events in motion that led to more death, even after he personally showed mercy. Full circle. Ending. Requires positive karma, but killing Anne. Murphy acted morally throughout the game, sparing monsters and making compassionate choices. But when faced with Anne's rage, when she attacked him in the nightmare realm, he killed her. The flashback reveals the truth. Murphy did kill Frank Coleridge. The entire game, Murphy has been suppressing this memory, convincing himself Sewell murdered Frank and framed him. But no, Murphy, in debt to Sewell for helping him get revenge on Napier, was ordered to kill another inmate. That inmate was Anne's father. Murphy stabbed him. The game's nightmare was Silent Hill, forcing Murphy to confront this suppressed guilt. After killing Anne, Murphy climbs stairs and finds himself at the top of a prison guard tower. He looks out over an otherworld version of the prison. He's alone. Anne is dead by his hand. Frank Coleridge dead by his hand. His son Charlie dead by Napier's hand. Patrick Napier dead by his hand. Murphy pulls out a pistol and shoots himself in the head. The screen fades. Murphy awakens in an otherworld prison cell, a prisoner again. The wheelman, a mysterious figure that appeared earlier, observing him. The ending suggests Murphy is trapped in an eternal loop, doomed to repeat his crimes and punishment forever. The title Full Circle refers to this cycle. Murphy escapes one prison only to build his own internal prison that he can never leave. Despite his positive karma, his two major killings damn him to perpetual recurrence. Execution ending. Requires negative karma and killing Anne. Murphy acted cruelly throughout, killed monsters liberally, made selfish choices. When faced with Anne, he killed her without hesitation. The flashback reveals he killed Frank Coleridge. After killing Anne, Murphy doesn't have the moral strength to resist judgment. George Sewell appears. Murphy is back in the real world, but it's the execution chamber. Murphy is strapped to a chair. Sewell, acting as executioner, administers lethal injection. Murphy looks at Anne's corpse, at Sewell's satisfied expression, at the finality of it all. His final words are bitter. "Yeah, I'll see you in hell, Cupcake." Murphy dies, executed for the murder of Charlie Pendleton, his own son. Wait, what? The ending reveals another layer. Murphy is being executed not just for killing Frank Coleridge, but for killing his own son, Charlie. The game's nightmare has revealed Murphy's deepest, most suppressed guilt. Patrick Napier didn't kill Charlie. Murphy killed his own son, then blamed Napier, then murdered Napier as false justice. Murphy's entire journey has been built on lies he told himself. Sewell, complicit in all of it, is executing Murphy for crimes Murphy committed and then buried so deep that even Silent Hill's power struggled to bring them fully to consciousness. This is the darkest ending, suggesting Murphy is irredeemably evil and that all his suffering was deserved. Reversal ending, achieved by dying in the final battle. Anne kills Murphy while he's in bogeyman form. The ending shifts perspective. Anne Marie Cunningham wakes up in a prison cell. She's no longer a corrections officer. She's an inmate. Murphy Pendleton enters, wearing a guard uniform. He's no longer a prisoner. He's a corrections officer. The scene mirrors the game's opening exactly, but with reversed roles. Anne stares in horror as she realizes she has become what she hated most. Murphy smiles. The wheelman observes. The implication is that Anne, consumed by rage and need for revenge, has become Murphy's psychological mirror. Her obsession transformed her into the thing she hunted, and now she'll experience his journey from her own twisted perspective. It's an alternate reality, a psychological loop, or a nightmare. The game leaves it ambiguous. But the message is clear. Becoming consumed by revenge transforms you into the thing you despise. Surprise ending. The joke ending. After beating the game once, a new side quest appears. Digging up the past. Complete this quest, then finish the game on your second playthrough. Murphy is seen digging through his prison cell floor with a spoon, tunneling his way out like a classic prison break. He breaks through to the surface, emerging in a dark room. The floor gives way beneath him, and he falls through into a bathroom. Lights suddenly turn on. People shout, "Surprise!" Murphy finds himself at a surprise birthday party. George Sewell is there, alive and friendly. Anne Cunningham is there, smiling. Frank Coleridge is there, not dead. DJ Bobby Ricks is there. Murphy's son Charlie is there, alive and well. Characters from previous Silent Hill games are present. James Sunderland, Mary, Laura, Heather Mason. 2 nurses from Alchemilla Hospital attend. And standing at a table with a massive birthday cake is Pyramid Head himself, the iconic monster from Silent Hill 2. Pyramid Head raises his great knife and slices the cake and the table beneath it in two. Murphy says, "Aw, you guys." The ending is pure celebration, everyone from Murphy's life and the franchise's history gathering to celebrate his birthday rather than judge his crimes. The song "Here Be Monsters" plays. It's joyful, absurd, cathartic, exactly what players need after Downpour's grim, serious endings. Unlike previous games, Downpour doesn't have a UFO ending. The surprise ending fills that role but features no aliens, just Pyramid Head as party guest. It's the series acknowledging its own mythology, bringing together characters from across games for one nonsensical celebration. Murphy's escape from prison leads not to punishment or freedom, but to recognition that everyone just wanted to throw him a party. After everything Murphy endured, guilt, violence, supernatural horror, moral judgment, the game says, "Surprise, we care about you. Here's cake. A monster is cutting it. Deal with it." Downpour's ending system was transparent but effective. The karma system tracked player behavior consistently. The choice to spare or kill Anne was explicit and meaningful. The endings themselves covered a wide moral range, from redemption to damnation to absurdist celebration. It wasn't as psychologically subtle as Silent Hill 2, but it delivered satisfying conclusions that reflected both Murphy's moral state and the player's approach to the game. Murphy Pendleton could be redeemed, executed, trapped eternally, or celebrated depending on how you played, making each ending feel earned. Silent Hill, Book of Memories, Choose Your Own Horror. Silent Hill, Book of Memories, released October 2012 for PlayStation Vita, was a radical departure from the series. It wasn't a survival horror game with psychological depth. It was an action RPG with procedurally generated dungeons and multiplayer functionality. The ending system reflected this genre shift, using a karma meter visible throughout gameplay and determining endings through accumulated light or blood alignment points. The game centered on a custom protagonist who receives a mysterious book on their birthday. This book of memories contains their entire life story. Rewriting pages changes reality. The protagonist uses this power to alter their past and future, entering the other world to battle through isometric dungeons, solving puzzles and fighting monsters from previous Silent Hill games. The narrative was thin, more premise than story, but the ending system tied into the theme of how you use power when given the ability to rewrite reality. Every 6 zones, players fought a guardian boss. After defeating a guardian, the game recorded a boss note, which could be either light or blood alignment depending on how many of that zone's 5 challenge notes the player completed as light or blood. The boss notes determined which ending you received. With 6 guardians to defeat, 6 boss notes accumulated. The ending you received depended on the ratio of light to blood boss notes. 6 endings existed: pure blood, blood, neutral, light, pure light, and joke. Pure blood ending requires 5 or 6 boss notes to be blood alignment. The protagonists embrace power and selfishness completely. After the final battle, the protagonist uses the book to live a life of excess, wealth, pleasure, indulgence, everything they ever wanted. Time passes. One day, the protagonist finds their spouse reading the book of memories. Paranoia sets in. If the spouse can rewrite reality, they could erase the protagonist, replace them, change everything. The protagonist panics and writes the spouse out of their life entirely. Alone, the protagonist descends into a spiral of distrust and misery. Everyone around them might use the book. Everyone is a threat. The protagonist's relationships dissolve. Eventually, the book goes blank. No more pages to write. The protagonist is alone, wealthy, powerful, and utterly empty. The ending suggests that using reality warping power selfishly destroys your humanity, leaving you isolated and paranoid, unable to trust or connect with anyone because you know how easily you change reality to suit yourself. Blood ending requires 4 boss notes to be blood alignment. The protagonist tries to destroy the book of memories, refusing its power. They burn it, tear it, throw it away. Nothing works. The book always returns. The ending is ambiguous. The book might come back eventually, or the protagonist might have escaped its influence. The title suggests partial corruption, that the protagonist leaned toward selfish use of power, but ultimately rejected it. The struggle continues. The book's persistence suggests power, once tasted, is difficult to fully reject. Neutral ending requires 3 boss notes of each alignment, perfect balance of light and blood. The protagonist ends up in a psychiatric institution. They're trying to use the book's power to balance the world, to make everything fair and just. But this is madness. The protagonist has become so obsessed with using the book correctly that they've lost touch with reality. It's unclear whether the book even exists or whether the protagonist is simply delusional, suffering a complete psychological break. The ending suggests that trying to play God, even with good intentions, leads to insanity. Power over reality isn't meant to be balanced perfectly. Attempting to do so breaks your mind. Light ending requires 4 boss notes to be light alignment. The protagonist resolves never to write in the book again, locking it away, but temptation remains. Watching television, the protagonist sees tragedies broadcast, disasters, deaths, suffering. The book could fix these. One rewrite, just one, could save lives, prevent suffering. The protagonist stares at the locked book, wrestling with temptation. The ending is open. Will they resist or give in? The title light suggests they lean toward good, but the ending shows that even good intentions create moral hazards when you possess reality warping power. Pure light. Ending requires 5 or 6 boss notes to be light alignment. The protagonist is gravely ill. The book could cure them, rewrite their illness out of existence. But nearby, a child needs help, dying from disease, suffering from circumstance, deserving intervention. The protagonist makes a choice. They write themselves out of the book, erasing their own life, and write in a cure for the child. The protagonist's life ends, but the child lives. Pure sacrifice. The ending suggests that the highest use of power is giving it up for others, that true goodness means prioritizing someone else's survival over your own, even when you have the ability to save yourself. It's the most hopeful ending in Book of Memories, showing that cosmic power can be used selflessly. Joke ending requires equipping 3 specific artifacts before defeating the Steel Guardian. At the end, Dog Tag, Valtiel's reward in Zone 19, White Feather, purchased in shop, and Channeling Stone, purchased in shop after Zone 21. These items reference previous games' UFO endings. With all 3 equipped, the joke ending triggers, overriding whatever alignment you accumulated. The ending is illustrated in comic book style. A group of tourists, Matt, Derek, Trevor, Case, Katie, and Becca, representing the various character classes you could play, decide to spend spring break vacation in Silent Hill. They bump into characters from previous games. Harry Mason asks if they've seen a little girl, referencing his search for Cheryl. Heather Mason works the front desk at Jack's Inn and sarcastically mutters, "Tourists," as they check in. She's then told the guest in room 302 locked himself in his room again, Henry Townshend from Silent Hill 4, continuing his isolation pattern. Walter Sullivan appears as creepy hotel bellhop, asking for room service. James Sunderland is worried about Mary catching something when one tourist sneezes on her. Pyramid Head eventually appears, because of course he does. Travis Grady from Origins is seen sitting on a sidewalk next to a sign reading $sign for gas. The ending is pure fan service, stacking references from across the franchise in absurdist scenarios. The tourists eventually escape or join the chaos. It's deliberately nonsensical, acknowledging Book of Memories exists in its own strange continuity separate from the main series. Book of Memories' ending system was straightforward but effective for its genre. The visible karma meter let players consciously choose their alignment rather than discovering it through hindsight. The endings themselves explore different philosophical approaches to power: selfish exploitation, destructive rejection, obsessive balancing, tempted restraint, sacrificial goodness, and absurdist tourism. As a dungeon crawler RPG, it couldn't deliver the psychological depth of mainline Silent Hill games, but it found its own way to make endings meaningful by tying them to the central question: what do you do when you can rewrite reality? UFO endings, a series tradition. The UFO ending became Silent Hill's signature joke ending, appearing in most mainline games and evolving with each entry. What began as simple comic relief in the first game grew into elaborate meta-commentary on the franchise itself. Examining them collectively reveals how the series used humor to release tension while simultaneously acknowledging its own absurdity. Silent Hill 1, 1999, introduced the concept. Aliens appear, abduct Harry, the end. Simple, crude, effective. The animation style deliberately recalled early silent films, emphasizing the ending's non-canonical nature. It was pure relief after the game's disturbing serious endings. Silent Hill 2, 2001, expanded it into crossover territory. Harry appears again, this time meeting James, both searching for lost people. An alien zaps James. Harry and the alien give each other a thumbs up before dragging James away. The ending connected games through absurdism, suggesting all Silent Hill protagonists exist in the same alien-managed reality. It was done entirely in black and white, still images with title cards, again referencing silent cinema. Silent Hill 3, 2003, went further. Heather returns home to find Harry alive, having tea with aliens. James watches awkwardly from the corner. Heather explains everything that happened in her game. Harry gets so agitated about his daughter's mistreatment that he performs a flying kick and vows to go to Silent Hill and bust heads. UFOs then destroy the entire town. It's the only ending where Harry survives, which is darkly funny. Harry can only live in the joke ending. Silent Hill 4, The Room, 2004, didn't have a UFO ending, making it the first mainline game to break the tradition. However, data mining revealed remnants of one in the code, suggesting it was planned but cut. Why it was removed remains unclear. Possibly time constraints or thematic concerns that a joke ending would undermine the room's already divisive experimental approach. Silent Hill Origins 2007 brought the tradition back. Travis tries to enter the room where his father died, but the key doesn't work. A UFO descends. Mira the dog from Silent Hill 2's dog ending appears, now wearing a space helmet for space travel. An alien explains they moved Travis's truck to their planet. Travis is delighted and asks if he can pilot the UFO. Do you drive stick? The alien asks. Everyone laughs. The ending is drawn in anime style, colorful and cartoonish, departing from the gritty realism of Origin's main game. Silent Hill Homecoming 2008 included a UFO ending but played it completely straight. No joke art style, no comedic tone, just Alex and Elle getting abducted by aliens in realistic graphics. The deadpan delivery made it funnier because it refused to acknowledge its own absurdity. It's technically a joke ending, but acted like serious conclusion, which was the joke. Silent Hill, Shattered Memories, 2009, had a UFO ending told through Cheryl's therapy session. She tells Dr. Kaufman that Harry was abducted by aliens, that Silent Hill is a spaceship. James Sunderland interrupts with scheduling confusion. Cheryl turns into Mira the dog. Dr. Kaufman reveals himself as an alien. It's layered, self-referential, and exists purely within the therapy framing device, rather than as real events even within the game's fiction. Silent Hill, Downpour, 2012, broke tradition by not having a UFO ending. The surprise ending filled that role. Murphy's birthday party with pyramid head cutting cake, but no aliens appear. It's the first mainline game since Silent Hill 4 to completely omit UFOs, suggesting the tradition had run its course, or that Downpour's developers wanted their joke ending to reference the series' iconography, Pyramid Head, rather than the alien continuity. Silent Hill, Book of Memories, 2012, included a joke ending showing tourists visiting Silent Hill and meeting various series characters, but again, no UFOs. The tradition fully ended with Downpour, as if the series collectively decided alien abduction had been done enough times. The UFO ending served multiple purposes. First, they provided emotional release after genuinely disturbing games. Second, they acknowledged the series' patterns and tropes, letting developers comment on their own work. Third, they created a bizarre meta-continuity where Harry and aliens were the only constants across games, more persistent than Pyramid Head or The Order. Fourth, they rewarded dedicated players who completed complex requirements, making the ending's achievement unlocks as much as narrative conclusions. The progression from simple alien abduction to elaborate crossover scenarios to self-aware meta-commentary showed Silent Hill's evolution. Early UFO endings were just jokes. Later ones became the series talking to itself, acknowledging patterns, connecting disparate games, and ultimately questioning the whole enterprise. When Cheryl in Shattered Memories says Silent Hill is a spaceship controlled by aliens, she's not entirely wrong from a meta perspective. The town does operate according to artificial rules, and those rules are controlled by external intelligences, the developers, who keep bringing people there for incomprehensible experiments, the games. The UFO ending tradition with Silent Hill admitting it was a construct, that none of this was real, and that sometimes the best response to cosmic horror is to acknowledge its fundamental silliness. Conclusion: the fog lifts temporarily. Across more than 2 decades, Silent Hill presented players with dozens of endings, each reflecting different philosophies about what endings should accomplish in horror games. Sometimes they measured player behavior invisibly, judging you without your knowledge. Sometimes they made choices explicit, letting you consciously select outcomes. Sometimes they reflected character psychology. Other times they reflected your psychology. Some endings offered hope. Others delivered despair. A few just said, "Aliens did it," and let you laugh. What unified them was intent. Every ending meant something. The good endings weren't just rewards. They suggested these characters could transcend their trauma. The bad endings weren't punishments. They showed what happens when guilt and pain become inescapable. The joke endings weren't dismissals of the serious content. They were acknowledgments that humans need release, that horror becomes unbearable without catharsis, that sometimes the only response to nightmare is laughter. Silent Hill 1 ended with babies and escape, or dreams and death, depending on whether you helped the right person and saved the right ally. Silent Hill 2 ended with suicide, new relationships, resurrection attempts, or dog revelations, depending on whether you healed your wounds and maintained connection to memory. Silent Hill 3 ended with survival and grief, or possession and murder, depending on how violently you played. Silent Hill 4 ended with escape or eternal imprisonment, depending on whether you cleansed your space and protected others. Origins ended with canonical prequel setup or non-canonical serial killer revelation. Homecoming ended with redemption, drowning, institutionalization, transformation, or alien abduction based on 3 explicit choices. Shattered Memories ended with whatever your personality looked like reflected back through a daughter's therapy session. Downpour ended with forgiveness, execution, cycles, or birthday parties based on karma and final decisions. Book of Memories ended with philosophical stances on reality warping power. And throughout, UFO endings appeared like a recurring dream, reminding you that none of this was real, and that's perfectly okay. The fog that blankets Silent Hill is permanent. The town still waits, patient and hungry, for the next guilt-ridden soul to stumble down its streets, seeking answers they probably don't want. But the fog also lifts temporarily in endings. Characters escape, truth emerges, judgment is rendered, or sometimes, just sometimes, aliens appear and take you away to your truck on another planet, because after everything horror makes you endure, you've earned at least one laugh, The endings of Silent Hill aren't just conclusions to individual games. They're the series asking fundamental questions. Can people change? Does guilt eventually release its grip, or does it tighten until consciousness itself shatters? Is redemption possible for terrible acts, and what does redemption even look like? Can we laugh at horror without diminishing it? How much control do we really have over our stories? And how much are we just following patterns laid down by forces beyond comprehension? Different games answered differently. Sometimes the series said yes, people can change, can escape, can heal. Sometimes it said no, you're trapped by what you've done, doomed to repeat cycles of violence and guilt. Sometimes it said the question itself is absurd. Here are some aliens. The inconsistency was the point. There's no single truth about trauma and redemption, just individual cases with individual outcomes determined by individual choices and circumstances beyond control. Sleep now, knowing that every possible fate in Silent Hill has been cataloged and explained. The town's many endings have been documented, its branching paths mapped, its joke and serious conclusions equally examined. Whether you sought redemption or accepted damnation, whether you escaped with allies or died alone, whether you were abducted by aliens or just walked out into the sunlight, every ending has been accounted for. Rest with the knowledge that Silent Hill's narratives are complete, that all its stories have been told, that the fog has lifted enough to see all possible horizons. But remember, if you hear an air raid siren, if you see rust spreading across walls, if your radio starts crackling with static, you're not in those endings. You're at the beginning, and the path ahead branches more than you know.